We start our part writing exercises by doing analysis. We need to know what notes belong to each chord and the key in which the notes and the chords exist. Our first part writing example is in the key of D major. It has two sharps in the key signature. If it were in B minor, the A's would be sharped, and it would not end in an A chord moving to a D chord, a major 7 to a major 3. These chords do not function to make a cadence. Since we are using figured bass and there are no figures, all of the chords are root position triads. Let's do our harmonic analysis first. We start on a major 1, then move to a major 5, back to a major 1, onto a minor 6, and then the predominant dominant tonic cadential progression minor 2, major 5, major 1. The exercise ends with a perfect authentic cadence. The harmonic formula is root position dominant to root position tonic, ending with do in the melody. Now it is time to be calm and zen. Part writing is not as confusing as it might seem. The first chord is a D, F sharp, A triad. The bass is singing the root, and the soprano is singing the third. So we need to add the fifth, an A, and our doubling constraints suggest we double the root, or add a second D. We know which two notes to add. Where should we put them? In this example, we have no choice to make. The choice is made by our constraints. If we try to put an A in the tenor, it must be A3. A4 is out of range. This will create a spacing problem for the alto. The alto must sing a D4. D5 is out of range. The alto will be more than an octave away from the soprano. We must start with D4 in the tenor and A4 in the alto. When the constraints make the decisions and I do not have to, I say that the exercise writes itself. Moving to the second chord, an A, C sharp, E triad, the bass is singing the root and the soprano is singing the fifth. This means we need a third, C sharp, and another A. Moving each voice as little as possible, the alto can stay on the A and the tenor can move a semitone down to C sharp, the leading tone. Always be aware of parallel motion as you write. Notice that we have written parallel sixths between the tenor and the soprano. Always avoid writing parallel perfect fifths, perfect octaves, and perfect unisons. The next chord is a tonic triad, and the bass and soprano are both singing the root. We need a third and a fifth, an F sharp and an A. This should seem troublesome to you, since the leading tone in the tenor needs to resolve to do, and do is not one of the notes we need to add. We do not skip over a chord tone when resolving the leading tone. It cannot move to an F sharp. It must move to an A. This method of not resolving the leading tone is called frustrating the leading tone. The alto will have to move off the A and sing the F sharp. Keep in mind our number one part writing heuristic. Move each voice as little as possible. The last chord in the first measure is a B, D, F sharp triad. The bass has the root and the soprano has the third. We need the fifth, F sharp, and another B. We can keep the F sharp in the alto and move the tenor up by step to the B. The first chord in the second measure is an E-G-B triad. The root is in the bass and the fifth is in the soprano. We need to add a G and another E. Both of these pitches are a step away from the alto's F. The tenor would need to skip a third to get to G, or a fourth to get to E. Moving each voice as little as possible, we will put the G in the tenor and move the alto to E. The penultimate chord is the cadential dominant, A, C sharp, E. The root is in the bass, and the leading tone, C sharp, is in the soprano. We need an E, the fifth, and another root. The alto can stay on the E, and the tenor can move up by step to the A. Resolving the dominant to the final tonic, the leading tone is resolved in the soprano, and the bass is singing the root. The tenor can stay on A to sing the fifth of the final chord, leaving the alto to move in parallel sixths with the soprano to sing the third of the final chord, F sharp. I want to draw your attention to the first three chords of this exercise. Notice the tonic chords on the strong beats of the measure with an intervening dominant. Structurally, the dominant is harmonizing what would otherwise be a passing tone in the melody. The dominant is embellishing the more structurally important tonic harmony of the measure. We say that the dominant is embellishing rather than structural, and that the tonic is being prolonged by the embellishing dominant. We have successfully composed the alto and tenor lines for our first four-part harmonization.